Hello everybody! Today I'm going to show you how you can turn a big used shirt into a dress with a fitted bodice. That's today on Refashioning with Rachel. First, if your shirt has a pocket, you want to remove it. Then turn your shirt inside out. For this project, you will need a bodice pattern that has darts in it. I'm using one that I drafted myself and tweaked many times. You can do the same or use one from any sewing pattern that has a fitted bodice. Place your bodice pattern on one half of the shirt. My pattern does not have seam allowances, so I'm just lining up the shoulder with the shoulder of the shirt. But if your pattern has seam allowances, you will need to offset the shoulder by however much the seam allowance is. And also, since I don't have seam allowances on my pattern, I'm adding them as I trace around the pattern. Also, make sure to add any markings for your darts. Then flip over your shirt so you can work on the back. And do the same thing with the back bodice pattern. And hopefully the shoulder markings will line up in the front and the back. And now cut out the shirt along the lines you just made. Then sew the darts. First, sew the dart closed. Leave some long threads. And then tie those threads into 3 knots. Then iron the darts down or to the side. Then pin the front of the bodice to the back of the bodice along the side seams with right sides together. And sew. Serge or zigzag the raw edge. Now let's go back to the bottom part of the shirt. Cut off the top and the bottom in straight lines. Remove any buttons that get in your way. Sew a basting stitch all around the top of this piece. But before you do that, mark the center back. And unbutton the buttons so that it's easier to sew. Open up the bodice and make a mark on the center back. Then pull on one of the basting stitch threads on the skirt and gather it up until it is about as wide as the bodice. Pin the skirt to the bodice with right sides together, lining up the marks we made on the center back and lining up the side seams of the bodice with the side seams of the skirt, and also lining up the button plackets. And sew. Just work with 1/4 section at a time, evening out the gathers as you sew. Pull out the basting stitch threads and serge or zigzag the raw edge. You can tuck away the tail of the serger by folding down the seam of the button placket and sewing it down. Then sew the button placket closed at the bottom of the dress. Now let's make a ruffle out of the sleeves. Draw in the biggest rectangle you can out of each sleeve. And cut it out. Cut it in half along the top of the sleeve. And then square off the ends. Do this with the other sleeve as well, and then pin each of these pieces together end to end to make one big loop. And so. Serge or zigzag the raw edges, and iron the seams flat. Make a basting stitch all along one side of this loop. Make a mark on the center front and the center back of the bottom of the skirt. Then make 4 marks on the ruffle that break it up into 4 equal sections. Then gather up the ruffle until it is about as long as the bottom of the skirt. Then pin the ruffle to the skirt with right sides together, lining up each of the 4 marks on the ruffle with the marks and the side seams on the skirt. And sew. Evening out the gathers as you sew. Remove the basting stitch. And serge or zigzag the raw edge. Hem the bottom of the ruffle by folding up the raw edge twice and securing with a stitch. Now to finish off the armholes, we need to cut out 2 strips of scrap fabric that is 1.5 inches wide and cut on a bias, and long enough to go around the armholes. Fold back the ends of these strips 1/2 inch and iron them down. Working on the right side of the bodice, line up the folded end of the strip with the side seam and sew it down using 1/2 inch for seam allowance. Overlap the folded part of the strip about 1/2 inch. And trim off the excess. Now, working on the wrong side of the bodice, clip into the seam allowance, all around the armhole, being careful not to clip through your stitches. Now fold in the raw edge of your bias strip, then fold it over again and make a stitch close to the folded edge. You want to be able to see a little hint of the dress fabric peeking out past the bias strip. Then iron the armhole so it lies nice and flat. And now the only thing left to do is add a button at the waist, which you can harvest from the cuffs. Add the button and the buttonhole according to your sewing machine. And this project is finished. So here's a reminder of how it looked before. And here's how it looks now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe and comment if you did. And have a beautiful day.